If Canada's supply chain is truly world-class, then here is the uncomfortable question.
People just wanted to carry on as they were, basically, and just work a bit harder,
Right.
not particularly smart.
Right. Where does Canada sit in North America's supply chain in the next 5 years?
Nobody's going to reward you for just in case. They're only interested in when everything's perfect,
Right.
getting the stuff to the customer, making a profit. I think many companies will be extinct.
One supply chain role that will mostly disappear by 2030. So, is Canada a ticking bomb? So, to the 18-year-olds who are listening, why should they spend 4 years of learning in forecasting, formulas, MRP math, and procurement processes when AI can already do all of them much faster and cheaper? So, if we remove the overtime, the favors, the manual workarounds, how many networks collapse according to you? A battle-tested operator who has spent decades inside retail, CPG, 3PL distributions, and last-mile networks across Canada and globally. He's not a commentator. He's the person companies call when operations are bleeding margins, missing services, or collapsing under complexity. Gary has led national transformations, advised private equity owners, operators, worked with some of the largest retail and logistics network across North America and worldwide, and stepped in as an interim COO when outcomes, not optics, were on the line. Let's get started. Gary, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Great to be here.
Absolutely. I'm personally excited to have you on this podcast. We have some great questions. I know our audience are going to be really beneficial with your industry knowledge and the expertise. And as I mentioned, we are not going to talk anything theory, everything practical, whatever you have done so far. So let me get to my first question. If Canada's supply chain is so world-class, why does one port strike, one snowstorm, or one ERP failure still cripples the entire region? And are we actually running a modern economy or just hoping nothing breaks?
I think that we're trapped by a subject called financialization. All our companies are evaluated purely in financial terms. So you can be the best brand, you can have the biggest fleet, whatever it might be, but at the end of the day, you've got to return a return on investment for that kind of investment, which leads people to think about making sure their costs fit in a certain cost expectation or cost model, which gives no flexibility if something goes sideways, because of the geography of Canada.
Right.
It's a very expensive country to run a network across, especially with low volumes. Every sort of cent counts, and it gives very little opportunity to think about, okay, what about if this disruption happens? What should we have already in place just in case? Nobody's going to reward you for just in case. They're only interested in when everything's perfect.
Right.
Getting the stuff to the customer, making a profit. And I think that I hope that we'll see over the next few years is, rather than talking about resilience, that we start making investments, genuine investments, in being much more resilient to all those kind of factors that you alluded to there.
So when you talk about the investments, where do you think the investment should be going out? It should be the infrastructure, or is it the technology, or is it the people, education, management? Where do you think the investment should be going?
Yep, all of those.
All of them.
But, if we think about, if we go back in time, there was a big thing in the 80s where trying to multi-skill people was like a brand new thing. But of course you want people to be able to flex across different roles, to have the competency to do that. And I know that certainly in Canada we have quite a strong, participation in the supply chain knowledge base, education, colleges, universities. Then we start to, and that's the people dimension, but then we think about things that we might need to have around us, extra capacity in our warehouses, extra capacity in our vehicle fleets, even ways of bringing our software into our technology into different situations very quickly because we've done all the coding. We just need to switch things to allow us to operate slightly differently because a disruption has caused us to think we have to behave, or we have to pick differently or route differently, or whatever it might be. But there doesn't seem to be much interest because of the financialization of how we work to actually make those investments at the moment. But I think that's going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. So is Canada a ticking bomb? And it's a big statement when I make this statement. So let me expand on that. From what you have seen inside Canada's operations, from 3PL manufacturing, are we resilient? Are we just very good at hiding fragility?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things going on. There's not only what I've just talked about the real lack of, there's a lot of talk about resiliency.
Right.
When we broke into the restrictions, everyone talked about resiliency, agility, and pivoting all over the place. But when we looked at the evidence, I didn't see very much of the real stuff going on. No big programs of we're developing our resiliency, or we're developing our agility. People just wanted to carry on as they were, basically, and just work a bit harder, not particularly smart.
Right.
But the other thing is, in some ways, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, I live here.
Right.
So it's just an observation. We do lack an appetite. An appetite for change.
Change. Okay, sure.
We're very, I work with lots of people over the time I've been here who have approached some of our major retailers, major manufacturers, and say, I've got this great idea, and they say, I need a full ROI business case, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
When it's actually, the project was a project of experimentation to try and see how this might fit in before we develop the business case. But the way of not moving forward is to say, I need all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed before I do anything.
Right.
And that has to change. If we are going to spend more time working within Canada, because that's the idea of, and diversify to other markets, we have to have more of an appetite.
Right. Because I totally agree with you in terms of the resilience. I mean, the resistance towards change. I can't name the organizations, but in my previous workplace, they actually bought up a new ERP system for demand planning, just for demand planning. And we were using the previous version of the same system. It's the same ERP system, but we were using a previous version for 2 years. People were so adapted. People wanted to just do the way it was. And the moment new ERP system came in, it was hard. It was more manual. And the system was doing most of the calculation, and we just had to approve the calculation. So it kind of gave us an illusion that we don't have to be there anymore. And the moment that happened, 60% of the people quit the organization. So that tells me that everybody wants the change, but nobody wants to change.
Yes. Well, I got a great example. I worked with a client for some time, and in terms of their routing software, they refused to upgrade a map. So every change that, say, the driver said, hey, it's taking me too long to go from A to B. Oh, no, I'm routed too long. I actually can go in there in half an hour or an hour. What's going on? And you'd look at the map, and that road they travel on, which is a very established road, hadn't been put on the map, so somebody would have to kind of draw it. And that became very clear in Edmonton, where you've got that big circle. That hadn't actually been plotted. So their refusal of keeping the map up to date meant that they were often either having too much time, too little time, whichever way around it was, and drivers were being underutilised as a result of that, and getting back to base early. And they were happy but they could have had a lot more on their trucks and be paid a lot more. But I don't think they connected the dots. But this reluctance to move forward with modern technology or up-to-date maps, simple things like that, is quite telling as to how we think about what's important around here for effective supply chain management.
Right. And this is what I've heard from my previous boss, and he told, if something is working, don't change. So that brings me off to this question or a follow-up question, that how much hero work is masking the broken system? Because I see a lot of supply chain professionals right now here in North America overworking. They're working on weekends. They're taking additional shifts. They get a call on an evening 7 o'clock about a truck which showed up late. So the manager needs to approve those purchase orders. A lot of things.
Yeah.
So it's all the hero work, going above and beyond. So
Yeah.
how much of that kind of work is actually saving supply chains in Canada?
I think a lot.
A lot.
I imagine a situation where everybody knew what needed to be done,
Right.
and it was a shared vision,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody knew what part they had to play.
Correct.
And when somebody got behind, people leaped in and helped
Correct.
to make sure, because we all understood the
Correct.
world the way it needed to be. I don't think we're anywhere near that. I think we have people, even within, let's say, the supply chain in its wider sense, but we have warehousing, we have transport, we have demand plan, we have this, we have that. And they're all working in a silo. They're trying to do the best job they can, and often they inherit a problem.
Right.
Somebody lobs something over
Right.
the fence, which is an error.
Right.
And rather than dealing with the error at source, they go, oh, there's another error. Let's just firefight this across.
Right. More of firefighting than a proactive approach.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I do talk to a lot of professionals, and like, it's an expectation from the employers when they're hiring. Are you going to be on working on weekends? Are you okay to start at 7 a.m.? Are you okay to work until 7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Business expectations, right?
But that's a plan for failure, isn't
Right,
it?
right.
Because how about if that person says, oh, I have to work at a weekend,
Right.
and then they fell sick or they got distracted
exactly.
or whatever, and the whole thing falls apart. You can't have an approach where it absolutely depends on people turning up
Correct.
outside of normal hours.
Correct.
So the task is to try and construct process and systems and the people, so that the work can be done at the right time, at the right place.
Right.
And everybody's got somewhat capacity to think about where's the next area of improvement or next area of innovation, or how can I do that just a little bit better tomorrow than I did it today. But at the moment, when I think about some of the organisations I've worked in here, it's all about rushing around, looking
Right.
busy, and you think all that waste that's happening, and that same problem will manifest itself tomorrow and the next day.
It's repeats,
and the
right?
next day, because there's no
Root cause fixing.
there's no appetite to get in there and understand it
Yeah.
and do something about it.
No, I mean, you're spot on, and I really like how the conversation is already heating up, because you told, right, we are actually setting up the overall system for failure only depending upon the employees,
Yeah.
because employees itself is variable. Like they can take a sick leave, or maybe they're already burnt out, and so on and so forth. So if we remove the overtime, the favors, the manual workarounds, how many networks collapse according to you?
Oh, this is the trouble, that you've got the leadership who designed this workflow in the way that we've described there, but you've actually got people in the system who are actually invested in trying to make it work somehow.
Somehow, yeah.
And I saw a lot of this during the early stages of the restrictions, where people, senior leaders,
Right.
were quite surprised that people, operatives, supervisors, first line managers, whatever, were actually doing weird things, and it was working.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't ask them to do it, but they just got on and did it because they were heavily invested, and also there was a burning platform, and people felt, well, if I don't do it, nobody else will.
Right.
I know that nobody else will, so I better do it. So I think if we could capture what happened in those early stages of the restrictions, and somehow embed that way of thinking, and sometimes it was some of the process architecture and
Process, system,
how we communicated across the silos. If we could just sort of embedded that, we'd be in a lot stronger position right now for most things that have happened since that point than we are. Because I think what happened was people got very excited. They stood up, they did things in a different way, and they saved the day.
Agreed.
But then as soon as restrictions, all right, let's go back to normal. Let's go back to 2019. It was brilliant then.
Right.
Well, it wasn't really, but it was
Correct.
better than 2020,
Right.
that's for sure. And we've had these waves of disruption, and they affect supply chains in
Right.
lots of different ways, depending on which category you are, where you're sourcing stuff from. But fundamentally, we kind of go from one thing to another and not learning and not embedding those lessons in the organization's, I want to say, database, for another better way of expressing it, the repository of how we do things around here, the knowledge that the organizational muscle that gets built up when you go through disruption and you learn stuff and you find people do things in different ways.
Right.
What tends to happen is, we got through that somehow.
Right.
Let's just go back to normal.
Correct.
And lose that opportunity to improve.
Because if we would have fixed it, the next time we don't repeat the same mistake.
Yeah.
And it'll save us the time, resources, and we can focus on something actually,
If you think about that, like 80-20 with Pareto analysis.
Right, Pareto analysis.
If you go and actually just go and spend some time and go, what are the errors today? And what are the errors, do tomorrow? What are the errors? You find it a repeat. You think, well, when we look at that and the impact of those things, if we just take off those 3 or 4 things, it solves so much.
Makes sense.
But it's kind of, people aren't motivated. They've got the tools to do it. They just lack the appetite to do it, or support. It could be not only appetite, it could be support.
Right.
But if, I like to see, in the turnarounds I do, I always get people really motivated to really get involved with lots of things.
Right.
And suddenly they're charging away without me, and I'm fine with that. But often people just don't feel supported to make those changes. But when, like in the situation I've been, when I say, look, we've got to look at that. Can you look at that? And you say, yeah, fine. And they go off and run with it. I say, great, keep going. I think, I'll do a bit more tomorrow.
Makes sense.
As opposed to, what are you doing that for?
No idea.
I didn't ask you to do that.
Right.
I'm not paying for that.
Makes sense.
You get different outcomes from how you approach people.
Fair enough. Makes sense. Great perspective. So moving on to the next one is AI versus the Canadian career, maybe North American career it would be. So to the 18 years olds who are listening, I do have a lot of students, as I teach in multiple colleges, there are a lot of young people who are entering the industry and whatnot. So why should they spend 4 years of learning, not just supply chain or overall education, right? In forecasting, formulas, MRP math, and procurement processes, when AI can already do all of them much faster and cheaper?
I think we're at an interesting point. I think in a few years' time, it'd be clear that we still need humans around.
Sure.
But when we think about the whole area of data processing, because that's what you were talking about when we're doing demand planning, forecasting, or inventory management, and it's basically using data in ways that aren't obvious to the average person. So we're using sophisticated algorithms and formula. Now, it would be so easy just to take the data we've got, ask ChatGPT, do this, and we go, look, the computer says.
Correct.
The reality is the computer says something, but it can also hallucinate.
100%.
And it can also it can hallucinate in what it's got, but it also doesn't have enough, I wouldn't say context, to understand the data's pretty poor. So I'll take this data and just run with it.
Right.
And, if somebody's prompting me, says, well, that doesn't look right, could you have another look? It might encourage the large language model to, those things don't add up very well.
Right.
But there's no checking of itself. There's no self auditing to say, actually, this data is really bad.
Right.
And before you ask me to do any more jobs, you need to check your process architecture and check where you're collecting the data, and make sure it meets this criteria before you send it to me. Then I can work miracles. And that's why we need humans around to look at things and just go, does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah. Because AI can only maybe support us, but can't take the ultimate decisions.
Yeah.
Because AI itself says AI can make mistakes, so be careful with it. It's like a disclaimer. And also, what I've observed personally when I do these analysis using any of the LLMs, if I keep asking more questions and I find errors, the GPT accepts that, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. You're right.
Yeah.
I will be like, bro, you'd have told me a long time back. I spent 30 minutes trusting you, figuring out. I would have spent this time by myself doing analysis and getting the results. But I used AI thinking that you'd be much faster, because AI is working towards giving me faster result, keeping the quality aside, because it want to think right away and give me the answer right now.
Yes.
And it's not thinking whether I want to give the right answer or not. Give some answer and then we'll figure it out. And also, what I believe learning these things is because if a person knows what is MRP, what is forecasting, they can also catch the errors of the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. Because I have a lot of debate with my large language model, which I call Johnny. And I say, Johnny, I don't do prompts, I just write what I'm trying to do. And I say, remember, no glue connector, no dashes, no this, no that, no that. Now, here's the subject. Can you give me a cut down version or whatever? And it comes back with those errors in it. I said, have a look at this and tell me which part of the instruction you didn't quite understand.
Right.
Oh, yeah. You're right, Gary. Sorry.
I apologize.
It's like, no. I mean, if you run a computer program, you put input at the top and get output at the bottom. It shouldn't have a reason to make an error when you're given very clear instructions.
It's too late and we lose the trust on the AI. And even companies really don't like people using AI to do their analysis and then come up with the reports and whatnot.
But it does depend if you've got the right mindset in the organization and they see that AI is
the next future, yes.
Yeah. And you've got a right process architecture and then you're collecting the data at the right points and it's coming over in a pretty reliable, consistent format, then it's then you can automate some of these things which you would normally have a person making a decision. Oh, I'll place that order today, or no, I won't do that today. You just want to automate some of this stuff. But where you're dealing with somewhat unstructured data in a context where disruption's happening, i.e. that it's not 18 months of steady state. It's like bumping and
up and down.
Even in a straightforward retailing environment, we're running a few promotions and we've got a few new products and we're delisting and we're still getting sales, although we're delisted. It's very hard for looking at the data for a machine to look at and go, oh yeah, I know what's going on there. So we have to give it more information.
Teach the AI to do the right job. And you're right in terms of having that organization, having the direction. I recently saw a job posting by Walmart and it's supply chain process optimization analyst. And one of the bullet point in the job description says that ability to optimize processes using artificial intelligence. I was like, this is awesome. Company is saying to use artificial intelligence, but does not say which AI, but I'm pretty sure that company is trusting one AI. Maybe it's Copilot or maybe Claude or it might be GPT. I don't know. Either of it, which company is trusting, and they want the employees to use it.
Yeah, but that shows, how should I put it? That would show, and there's no disrespect intended to Walmart, but you can ask a large language model any question, and you could focus into process, and you say, I want to do some process re-engineering. This is, and you could describe goods in, you could describe put away, you could describe these things, how you actually do them, and say, tell me how to optimize this.
Makes sense.
And it would give you some
100%.
But how do you know
whether it's right or makes sense? Awesome, great. I mean, we will leave AI to a question mark because nobody has an answer right now because it's an evolving.
And that's fair, because if people tell other people this is what's going to happen. I was at a holiday event and a rather elderly chap, let's say, I just came in and he was blabbering on about AI, about how it's happening in his company and it's doing this. And I turned to a colleague and said, that's not AI. I don't know what. I think that's the brochure. Because people like to think this might be happening because it's
Makes sense.
artificial intelligence. It's like it's something very super. It's
Sure.
beyond, and actually, it's just a series of code and
Right.
algorithms.
Human created stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary. Really appreciate for giving your perspective. Moving on to the next topic, geopolitics and the nearshoring. As we are recording this video, I saw the news yesterday. What happened in Davos in Switzerland, the international forum, right? Commerce forum. A lot of leaders are talking a lot of things, but that's not my question is. But it's very relevant. So we are hearing nearshoring sold as Canada's big win, right? But from the inside numbers, has this actually made supply chain cheaper, faster, more reliable? Is it worth bringing manufacturing back to Canada, or we should still rely on somewhere else where the countries are not like really reliable and whatnot?
We have to remember why many companies outsource their production manufacturing
In the first place.
Yeah, and it was to countries in the Far East and specifically China.
Right.
For 3 reasons.
Okay.
One, very low regulations.
Okay.
Second
Wow.
was very flexible, very cheap labor.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a factory in China and somebody was literally got a soldering iron and doing that. And if he behaved himself, he could go and do the next job after 6 months of doing this accurately.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one, it fights against a lot of the narrative that has been pervading Davos, is very low energy costs.
Right.
If you can't solve the energy costs, you will never make something in your
Cheaper.
domestic
Right.
production than somebody like China or
Correct.
Vietnam or Bangladesh or wherever
Correct.
it might be,
Right.
because they have those 3 elements.
Right.
We have heavy regulation.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
have very inflexible, high-cost labor. I mean, as a comparison, I'm going back a few years. I was in a conversation with somebody who used to work for GM, and I think they were telling me they get $35 an hour or something like that.
Right.
I said, you realise that's a monthly wage of a Chinese worker?
Right.
I said, what? I said, so you do 40 hours at $35 an hour. They work for 40, 50, 60 hours.
Hours for the
They
same
have
money.
dormitories on site. They have no life. All they do is work. And also, if there's an injury, and I saw this firsthand,
Right.
if there's an injury, just chuck them out and bring the next guy in.
Wow.
And some of the, like I would say, we need health and safety regulations to protect people. But when I went over there in, I think it was 2000, some of the machinery they were using, it looked pretty fatal. So, flexible labor, very cheap fuel, very low regulations.
Regulations. Yeah.
We have to solve those to be able to reshore it.
Right. Reshore it.
Even if we went to nearshore it, we're still, we're talking about, I guess, here from Canada, it'd be the US.
Or Mexico.
With Mexico.
Right.
But even they've got regulations, they've got high fuel energy costs.
Labor
and
costs.
often inflexible labor force.
Right. No, perfect, Gary. I've asked this question to a lot of people. You're the first one who spoke about the rigid regulations in Canada, because everybody says cheap labor. It's an easy word to say, but you broke it down so much.
The labor is coming up.
Right.
I mean, I'm going back, 20 years when it was super cheap.
Right.
But now their own economy has developed.
Correct.
Their aspirations have developed, so they need more money to work. So, but it is the energy costs and the regulations.
So, what I personally feel is more than the government regulations, even people should start thinking about, the ethics, transparency, some sustainability. When an employee being abused in China and they're producing the product, and I don't mind buying a cheaper product, and I'm enjoying it. At the same time, asking for a local job to be formed because I want a company here. So I think it's more of customer behavior and customer education and customer choosing not to buy the products coming from there.
If you went to the average person on the street with a clipboard and asked questions like, "Do you want to save the planet?" Yeah. Would you
Pay more?
Would you pay more to have it made here rather than, say, America, given the current fervour that we've got going on here? But when you actually watch consumers at like Prime Days, and
Right.
Black Friday
Right.
and all the events where the price is very cheap. They don't give a damn as to where the rooting of that is, the sourcing of that. It's, if this is cheap, I'm going to have it.
Correct.
So I think that we've got two things going on. We've motivated people to expect cheap prices, but we're also saying, oh, you have to have a conscience, but that's going to cost you money.
Yeah.
And and while we have a weakening middle class and a higher level of like working class people and people with like $200 away from being bankrupt.
Agreed. Yeah.
They're not going to worry too much about sustainability. They're going to say, I'm going to have that food or that piece of clothing or whatever, and if I can get it super cheap and it just happens to be made in a foreign country where they have lower regulations, so what?
Right.
It's not going to stop me from eating or getting clothed.
Right. You're right. When the survival is at risk, they don't think about sustainability.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And that's a big topic. We can keep going on and on and on. So let's talk about the tariffs. It's a big topic all over the news. I mean, like every country has been affected on because of tariff. So between US tariffs, Mexico cost advantage and political uncertainty, is Canada quietly losing its place in North America's supply chain, or are we pretending this is temporary?
Yeah. Well, let me just stand back from this, and it probably won't, what I've got to say may not be palatable to a number of people who believe that what Donald Trump is doing is protectionism. What happened in the US, it was an open market.
Correct.
People from the EU and other markets would go into those markets, but when the US tried to break into their markets, they'd find 80%, 100%, 200% tariffs or quotas. So there'd be restrictions on doing that. So what he's done back in what I call his washerboard is, oh, look at this rate, I'm going to do half of that. People would describe what he's doing now as protectionism. I would say that he's trying to balance the book so that if you want to trade in the American market, like trading in your market, there has to be some kind of
mutual
payment, some tariff, some quota, some restriction.
Right.
Because he's trying to say, I want you to go and buy American cars.
Correct. Agreed.
But you're not buying any. Why not? Oh, because you're charging us a huge tariff. So they are very unattractive to your domestic population. So tariffs, so that's where I come from. So just to explain that.
Right.
I think tariffs will, they're inevitably going to be, let's call it as a concept, permanent.
Permanent, okay.
There'll be, one hopes that, the foreign countries reduce theirs and
the percentage goes up and down, but the tariff is going to be
and until literal free trade happens. What tariffs do to our supply chains? There's a couple of things going on. Firstly is, and I'm not an expert, and this product has this rate. But where there's the thought that we're going to have a tariff, just much like the Canadian government imposed tariffs on inbound. So you'd probably find a load of American exporters to the Canadian market. So, oh, that's going to happen in 2 weeks. We're going to organise ourselves, get stuff on trucks, cross the border. Told you.
Very good.
Cross the border and get them into the local market to avoid the tariffs. So that's something quite tactical, quite operational that I saw when we first had the first set of tariffs going into the US. I think it was about a 2 or 3 day window, and I didn't see much activity in terms of people doing that. But when the tariffs went in, and then there was an escalation in 2 weeks' time, people started moving things around and trying to get things into different markets free of tariffs. The other area of tariff is where he says like. He threatened the UK, EU with 20% tariffs or whatever the number was if you didn't give me Greenland.
Right.
that creates a huge amount of risk because we don't know if he's actually going to implement those or not. And I heard, I think earlier today, that he's not.
They came with an agreement plan. Yeah,
that's right. So the risk of a tariff going up or not, when it's unclear if it's going in a certain direction, that becomes very problematical to plan the supply chain. Because you could say, oh, it's going to happen.
Right.
Let's put everything on a truck and send it.
Right.
And it doesn't happen. Then you've got all this product in a different country. You're having to pay warehousing.
Right.
The demand might actually
drop,
falter. Right. All these things. And trying to plan through that is very difficult.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like it's very uncertain. I think Trump is trying to bring the old order back because I personally feel, right, because everybody want to sell to US.
Yeah, it's biggest market.
Everybody want to sell US. Yeah. Everybody want to make in USD. Yeah. It's really profitable and whatnot. I think he's doing something which is good for their country. Yeah. But during this imbalance, we all are suffering as different countries.
Yeah, he's disturbed the natural order of things. And there'd be a lot of people who were very well rewarded with the old order of things. And they're very vocal at this point in time about what he's doing and his team are doing. And that will continue until their voices diminish because time's gone on and they've worked out that they've gone beyond the point of no return.
Right. 3 more years of Trump, we'll see what else we have to see on a almost like we're seeing changes on a daily basis. So
yes.
And every time the word tariff comes, yes, a lot of people are getting affected, but the supply chain people are the most affected straight away.
Yep.
So it makes so much of difference for us being supply chain professionals. And I think we are having a CUSMA, North American Free Trade Agreement review coming up in 2026.
Well, you heard what he said.
What did he say? Yeah.
Well, he said he doesn't care about it.
And
I think, geopolitically, if we can talk about that, if we already had a deal, I know we've got CUSMA, but if we'd actually made more of CUSMA and these other, lumber and aluminium and steel, if we'd got them somehow brought into an overall package, I would feel that we'd be in a stronger position because we've got a deal as opposed to CUSMA plus others, which meant that when we went into summer with the review period, we would have to also be happy to break that agreement from a 3-party to a 2-party. If we had a deal and we were open to that suggestion, I think we'd be in a fairly good place. Sure. But we haven't got a deal. Our government's into multilateral agreements, as many countries are, and Trump isn't. And he's we can pray that his midterms he'll lose control of the Congress and all that kind of stuff. But we shouldn't plan on that. We shouldn't hope that that's going to happen. We should have a definitive plan.
Yeah, absolutely. For the viewers who don't have an idea about CUSMA or North American Free Trade Agreement, it's a trade agreement between US, Canada, and Mexico. So, bit of a context, in 2025, when Trump actually imposed 25% tariffs on Canada, people got freaked out, companies stopped hiring employees, and then after some time, they figured out that CUSMA, the products which come under North American Free Trade Agreement are exempt from tariffs. And suddenly the party began, and then everybody started hiring, the businesses grew, etc., because 90% of the products and services which gets transported between US and Canada comes under CUSMA, which is North American Free Trade Agreement. And that is coming to review in 2026, July or June. In case, let's say we don't get a deal in 2026, June, and Trump says, no CUSMA anymore, we are canceling it. He might say that.
Yes.
He can say that. What happens to hiring? Do you think companies are going to stop hiring? We are going to see more layoffs in supply chain?
Well, let's imagine what might happen. That he just says, everybody's, Canada, 20%. If you want to get into our market, it's 20%.
Okay.
Imagine all our exports, which were covered by CUSMA.
Okay.
Suddenly have an extra 20% cost.
So no more shield. They lost the shield, right? The protection. So what happens to the hiring and the businesses?
I think it would devastate the economy. I'm still wondering when because he says over and over, people talk about Trump rambling. He actually tells you what he's going to do if you listen carefully enough. He said repeatedly, and it affects Ontario particularly, that it doesn't need Canadian cars. American cars should be made in America.
Right.
Well, I've been writing this down on LinkedIn since about January last year. There'll be a point in time he orders his American manufacturers back to America. And I think the only thing that stops him from doing that is, one, has he got enough capacity to do that in terms of factory space and labour? Labour's always been a bit of a concern in terms of its availability. They've had in manufacturing, last year they were running 2 million jobs short of what they needed. So if you bring all that in,
Sure.
That's going to cause a problem.
Right.
But if you believe that what he said on that aspect is true, Ontario is going to be devastated from our manufacture. It's not just the plants themselves; it's all the periphery,
The vendors, the suppliers, the marketing teams.
Just goes over the thing, and the fact that stuff goes from here to there to there to there, and the car emerges, doesn't mean that he can just take that back and we still carry on making cars. Quite the opposite. We now have to invest in the other things that have gone south of the border. We have to build new factories. We have to build new capabilities. We need to have that knowledge.
Right.
So I think we're in real jeopardy.
Right. So that's good. Sorry. Yeah.
And when we think about some of the things that we should be doing now, these nation building projects, can you name one that's actually
happening right now?
Yeah.
I mean, they're thinking about the pipeline, but it's not happening.
We're not going to do
Right.
that. So I think things are very precarious right now, and we really need to have our government face up to the reality of what it is in Canada and what the real risks are. Trump takes the manufacturers south of the border. Cosmo rips up and goes 20%. Our export market to the south will be devastated. And we got some evidence of this. I wasn't here at the time, but when the dollar achieved parity during the Great Recession, it wiped out most of our manufacturing facilities because we couldn't compete.
Right.
Because we don't know how to remodel our cost model basis. We don't know how to re-engineer our processes. The only saving grace might be if we could just grab hold of AI and automation and try and make that do something for us.
For us, yeah.
But we may still maintain that business even with a 20% cost uplift on it. We could find our way to make our costs 20% less in simple terms to allow us to still operate at the same price to the customer.
Makes sense. Yeah, 6 months, we are going to face something really big.
Yeah, and we're just sitting here.
Right, because I've heard Trump saying multiple times, I don't like CUSMA because he says we are taken advantage of. He's openly said that. One quick follow-up question on that. So in case CUSMA is gone, we got like 20-25% tariff, will there be hiring freeze or will companies lay off?
Oh, we'll definitely have to lay off. They haven't got any
choice.
They haven't got any capacity in their pricing structure because the Americans will have said, this is a price. If you can't do it at this price, I'll find somebody else. So we kind of find our way into that cost model. And that cost model restrains or constrains what we can do as investments in terms of capital. And if you think about the low interest rates that we had from the Great Recession till more recently, it did spur a huge amount of capital investment in new plant, new machinery, whatever it might be. It was just like, oh, it's cheap interest. That's good. It's like, no, this is the time where the weighted average cost of capital is lower than labour. So you should be investing a lot in capital to reduce your overall costs.
Makes sense. I mean, every topic is like I think an hour podcast. Like there's so much of depth to it. We're just covering at a surface level.
And the only saving grace, I'd say, just to balance off the argument, is that if we get to June, July, and the customer's up and he's trying to rip it,
Rip it away.
he may actually say this $17 trillion that's meant to come in hasn't quite come in, and we've got a 3 million shortfall of manufacturing. We actually still need Canada.
Okay. I hope he might not say...
That's like, that's the only glimmer of hope.
Okay. I hope he might not say that become a 51st state, then Kusma is there. If not, I'm going to rip up the Kusma. So I don't know.
It's a whole different argument.
Right. With all the statements, what Mark Carney did yesterday, Trump was not happy because he was like, it's a rupture. That's what exactly the word used by Carney. He said, it's a rupture in world order, the new world order, he said. Anyways, I think let's move on. We're almost at the end of the topic and we covered a lot of things already. Thank you very much for being very open, honest, clear. So the dirty reality of the operations, what part of supply chain life no textbook or certification or LinkedIn post prepares for individuals? Because a lot of people want to get into supply chain. Their initial material is certification or some sort of education and whatnot. But there is something more than what these things teach us. So what that would be? Or you want me to repeat the question? So what part of supply chain life or no textbook or certification teaches for preparing?
Oh, right.
Yeah. The uncertainties or the overworking.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've understood the question.
Okay.
So from a point of view of if somebody's in the supply chain, what kind of skill do they have that isn't replicated in other functions?
Right. So it's more towards what are they not expecting? So nobody prepared them for this.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Right.
I should have.
Right.
Yeah. I think the intensity would be one of the things that things can happen so quickly. You have your cut off. You need to get the orders in, route them quickly, release them to the floor, pick them right crazy, put them into a pallet, marshal them, chuck them on a truck very quickly, and get them to the customer. And that timescale constantly reduces. Which puts a lot of strain on typically the processes, because often people find shortcuts to do it quicker, but it destroys the integrity of the processes. Find ways in the system to press these buttons to sneak it through somehow, and then somebody else has to go, what's all this? What are all these transactions? And on a personal level, when I worked at GFS, it was kind of funny. I did some work in the winter, and all the bit that the main warehouse was, I guess, was heated. It was ambient, but I think it had heating in it. They had people stripped down to their vest, if not less, going to pit because they had a incentive scheme that if you picked, I think it was 540 minutes worth of work, you could go, and the benefit of that was you could go early and you didn't have to pick up any of the mess that you left by rushing around and pulling all the stuff together. But I think the intensity of work and alongside that, you have to be aware of so many things that you have to carry in your head typically, and if you drop out, go on holiday or something, you come back and it's like, oh, how am I going to get back up to speed and all these things that are going on, albeit that they look very similar every day, especially the errors.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, even the overall, the intensity, right? Because people are not prepared and people are going to be thinking it's like a 9-to-5 gig. They get in, it's going to be rosy-dozy. There's a lot of certainty about the job because we need more supply chain people, but it's going to be intense for sure, as you said. I think we are almost at the last segment. It's going to be rapid fire.
Oh, right.
One word, no explanations. Okay. One supply chain role that will mostly disappear by 2030.
I suspect demand planning, forecasting, those things AI will overtake those.
Okay. Yeah. That's the most high-paying job right now, demand planners. And okay, fair enough. So one skill every Canadian supply chain professional must have or will be absolute.
Communication skills.
Communication. Perfect. Awesome. One line we keep telling students about this industry. One lie we keep telling students about this industry.
Yeah. You can have a nice corner office and a nice company car and a six-figure salary, and you don't have to work too hard.
None of it is true. Awesome. Last question. So if nothing structurally changes, labor, infrastructure, decision speed, where does Canada sit in North America's supply chain in next 5 years? Because you said that nobody want to change.
Yes.
So same on the same thing. If we don't want to change for next 5 years, what happens to supply chains in Canada?
I think many companies would be extinct. There'd be a combination of companies going extinct. There'd be some zombies, and there'd be one or two companies that are stellar because they've taken the opportunity to invest in the right things, and they can compete. They've changed that appetite they have. They've actually embraced the appetite, and they're making changes, and they're making progress.
So whoever changes, they will stay, and whoever is not changing.
Well, change isn't like just because you change doesn't mean it's in the right direction.
Right.
You have to have a picture of things and a strategy of how to pick your way through that. But then it's the execution of that, or the appetite around that, that's vital for an organization to be able to not only beat their competitors in submission, but continue to do that every day. So they're in the forefront of their customers' mind. Every time they think about that problem, they think about the name of your company.
Gary, thank you for bringing real operating experience, not surface level commentary, into this discussion. What you shared today about fragility, trade-offs, leadership, pressure, and the future of supply chain work is the kind of perspective people only get after years inside the system. For everyone watching or listening, if this episode challenged how you think about supply chains, careers, or North American position, make sure to subscribe to the Supply Chain Launchpad podcast. We bring operators, not theorists, real conversations, not safe ones. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.